Hi, this is Devin Gardner, and I'll be reading a scene from Octavia Butler's Bloodchild, in a dramatic sense, and then I will be reacting to it afterwards. So let's get started right about here. Lomas's entire body stiffened under Tagoy's claw, though she merely rested against him as she wounded the weird section of her body around his legs. He might break my grip, but he would not break hers. He wept helplessly as she used his pants to tie his hands, then pushed his hands above his head so I could kneel in the cloth between them and pin them in place. She rolled up his shirt and gave it to him to bite down on. And then she opened him. His body convulsed with the first cut. He almost tore himself away from me. The sounds he made, I had never heard sounds like that coming from anything human. Takatoy seemed to pay no attention as she lengthened and deepened the cut, now and then pausing to lick away blood. His blood vessels contracted, reacting to the chemistry of her saliva, and then the blooding slowed. I feel as though I was going to help her torture him, helping her consume him. I knew I would vomit soon, didn't know I hadn't already. It couldn't possibly last until she was finished. She found the first grub. It was fat and deep red with his blood, both inside and out. It had already eaten its own egg case, but apparently had not yet begun its host. At this stage, it would eat any flesh except its mother's, let alone it would have gone on exerting the poisons that had both sickened and alerted to Lomas. Eventually, it would have begun to eat. By the time it ate way out of Lomas's flesh, Lomas would be dead or dying, and unable to take revenge on the thing that was killing him. There was always a grace period between the time the host sickened and the time the grubs began to eat him. Okay, so obviously that was the scene where Lomas is wandered onto their farm, their house kind of plantation thing, and he's obviously in pain, and then Letagoy just suddenly opens him up and takes out the young, of this alien species, the Tlick. Because, when you open up into this story, we're met with this new, human world, and this dystopian future where humans are now farmed on a preserve by these alien races called the Tlick, and it seems as though that they formed this contract with the human subspecies. Now that they have to carry their eggs, their offspring inside of them, and but you don't know this going into the story. The story begins. We meet Tagoy. She seems nice. Our main character seems pretty confident that everything is going to be okay with him. He's happy with his life. Everything seems very innocent and fine until the brutality of cutting open the human like it's a farm animal, taking up the young like it's nothing. The shock of that scene was just so sudden, and I love those kinds of turns, and any story really, not just science fiction, but just for any story, really brings that kind of sickening, curious response from the reader that you can't. It's the phrase "you can't take your eyes away" really applies to this kind of scene. What it really does for the dystopian novel is that it kind of dehumanizes the idea of humanity, of individuals, and kind of treats us as just livestock or farm animals or just hosts for some higher species eggs for their offspring. It treats us like nothing. There's a point when Gon is talking with his older brother Kui, and he says there's more to life than just being a host and offspring, right? But in the context of the story, is there really? It's the question you have to ask yourself, is that does the individual become less important when faced with something that just makes them seem so meaningless? To just be a host, a farm animal, to be nothing more than just the host for some other species offspring. The shock is just still setting in with me. I love this story, but it's a lot. It's a lot. This scene is a lot. The gore of it, the brutality, the dehumanization, it's very much. And I don't do it enough justice, honestly. I'm not doing a good job right now, but I'm just in utter shock, honestly. It's a great story.